Welcome to Insights into Insurance from the A-Team at Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is educational in nature and not intended to be acted upon without first consulting the appropriately licensed professional.
It's a Saturday morning, and that means, once again, it's time for our Insights into Insurance program with Americana Insurance here on KATE on this Saturday morning. Mike Whitus, your host, with Tom Sorensen from Americana Insurance. And Tom, we start a new tradition, 101 today.
Yep. We went on to the 100 program, and now we're on to 101, Mike.
Many more to come.
I hope so.
Let's jump into, we did get an email this week from a listener, so I'll go through and it says, "Hello, Tom and Mike. I am a small business owner here in Albert Lea. One of my friends that owns a business like mine told me he got sued by one of his former employees after he fired them. He told me he didn't have insurance coverage for the claim. It's ongoing, and he said his attorney fees are racking up tremendously. How do I protect myself from a situation like this? Thank you." And this comes in from Mark.
Yeah. Mark, I know I always say this, but what a great question.
It is a good question.
It is. These are real life examples, okay? And so that's what's so neat about these questions is they really hit a topic normally that's like, yeah, that's something I know exactly what's happening here. So my first response to Mark would be, and questions would be, what action are they suing your friend for? Okay. Just by reading the question, and again, sometimes reading the question, I can only assume some things, okay? My guess is it is for wrongful termination.
That means he's claiming that he was fired for maybe discrimination of age, your race, gender, maybe a disability. There could be so many more things.
Right, exactly, Mike, exactly. In the last 20 years, wrongful termination lawsuits have increased by 260%.
It's amazing, and the dedicated employees never would think of suing their employer until that time comes when something would happen and the employer says, we have to let you go. And the next thing, they start talking to friends and relatives. You should sue that company.
Right. And I'm going to go through this and I'm going to say there is actual people that should probably sue, okay, for wrongful termination. But then there's also people that when they do get terminated, all of a sudden let's just say, I don't know, it could be potentially frivolous lawsuits. They're mad. The revenge factor. Okay?
I'm going to get the employer back.
Right. So now, along with wrongful termination, there are other employee lawsuits. As long as we're doing this with this question, I just thought, hey, let's do some other employee lawsuits. Just employee lawsuits have risen over 400% the last 20 years. So wrongful termination was 260% over 20 years. Employee lawsuits, okay, so that's just saying, just not over termination, but employee lawsuits have risen over 400% in the last 20 years. And some of those are, not all, but a lot of them are harassment, sexual and verbal, discrimination to things like promotions based on those items that we described earlier that you said, like discriminatory race or gender or disability. So here's a opportunity for a promotion, and let's just say a gentleman got it and a woman didn't, and the woman was say thinking, and maybe justifully, I'm way more qualified to get that promotion than that person. Why? Is it because I'm a woman? So those are things that can happen. Emotional distress in fostering of a hostile work environment. Okay, not only could it be that the owner or the supervisor, whoever, is very hostile, but maybe there's employees in that office that
create
that, you know, and don't do anything about it, you know. So pregnancy discrimination, non-paid interns is another big one. Illegal background checks.
That is huge.
That's a big deal. Okay. And so, and like I said, much more, but these are all cases of wrongful termination or employee lawsuits that can happen.
Now, these, there are some cases that obviously are very stressful. They're very expensive, not only to the employee, but also expensive to the employer.
Yeah, absolutely. And according to the specialty insurer Hiscox, in 2015, Hiscox put out a guide to employee lawsuits, which includes business with employees with 500 or less average, employees. The duration of employee lawsuits on the average is 275 days long. Also, some items from Trusted Choice is an independent insurance association firm. Some of these items that I'm about to tell you came from Hiscox and the Trusted Choice. The average total cost of claims on an employee lawsuit is $125,000 to an employer. And an average jury award, so if it goes to jury, okay, there's some that are settled out of court, some that are dismissed. But then the ones that go to jury, it's $217,000 average to the cost to the employer. 81% of the charges that resulted in no payment and unfounded. So the good news about them is 81% of them don't have a payment, okay, but 12% chance of an employee lawsuit for a small to medium-sized business, 500 employees or less. So let's take 10 businesses out of Albert Lea, 500 employees or less. Well, that's most of the employers in town.
Right.
1 out of those 10, or a little bit more than 1 out of 10, is going to have a lawsuit from an employee.
And then, of course, there's office costs as well.
Well, the office cost is the stress and moral issues that a case can cause is immeasurable, you know. So let's just say Mike and you and I, Mike, own a business together, and our employees, let's just say we have 20 employees, and 1 or 2 of them got an employee lawsuit going or a wrongful termination, and all of a sudden these employees that are working with them could be called into court, and it just causes a lot of friction and just stress.
And then that employee that maybe feels that he or she was wrongfully terminated may contact their former employee friends and say, you want to join me on this lawsuit because I don't think I was terminated, or hey, you should do the same thing I'm doing because you're going to be next to be terminated. And that friction in the office, especially when you said, Tom, just on an example of you have here at the radio station, it's a small employee base.
Right.
We're under 10 employees. All of a sudden, one is wrongfully terminated, decides to sue. Now, all of a sudden, that ball starts rolling, and then you start thinking, well, if that person gets a lawsuit, and if it goes all the way through to court, and on this average of $125,000 or up to $217,000, just as an average, they're thinking, boy, I could get that kind of money as well. Right,
exactly. And just so you know, that average cost of the claims, most of it is attorney fees.
You're not going to get the whole ball of wax.
Right. So 81% of them are found unfounded, but the thing is, if I remember right, I think I read that on the average $75,000 on employee attorney fees when there is an employee lawsuit. So that's just right out of and so that's the issue is with, at a minimum, that's probably could be what you're looking at for a cost.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about it, you got to look on the other side. If it's not a strong case and it's founded as unfounded, it's going to cost you in the wallet as well.
Yes.
Tom, let's take a break here on our Insights into Insurance program on this Saturday morning. We've talked about some of these large numbers and what different types of lawsuits can come about. Now let's talk about prevention. We're going to do that when we come back on the second half of our Insights into Insurance program here on Kate 1450.
You got a side that wants more space, 'cause every day starts like a race. You got a side that loves that style, but to fit in those shoes gonna take a while. Today life's got you running, tomorrow big things are coming. Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
To learn more about how Nationwide can help protect your many sides, call Americana Insurance Group in Albert Lea and Wells.
Welcome back to our Insights into Insurance program on this Saturday morning here on KATE. Mike Whitus along with Tom Sorensen from Americana Insurance. Tom, we got the email from Mark talking about lawsuits for coverage and making sure that there is coverage. Let's be proactive and talk about a little bit about prevention.
Yeah, first of all, I would recommend seek an employment attorney in putting procedures like a hiring and employment policy procedures and handbooks together. On the front of this program and on the back, I think we always say make sure you talk to a professional in your field about what, basically get a hold of an attorney and make sure that you got these things in place.
And someone that actually hires or actually does do procedures for employment,
right?
Not a divorce attorney or a real estate attorney. You want someone that really deals with employment.
Exactly. And as small business owners like myself or the other people, they're normally not HR experts to seek it, so they need to seek the advice. 10 classes on best practices regarding HR items. Even though that you don't want to become an HR expert, you should probably just go to some classes just to get an idea of what you should be looking out for or red flags or things like that. Lastly, and probably the most important thing, is risk transfer. Okay, what is risk transfer? Well, insurance is risk transferring. You're transferring the risk of potential big loss to an insurance company. Purchase an employment practices liability insurance policy. Sometimes they are sold standalone policies, or sometimes they can be endorsed onto your existing business policy. So what does employment practices liability insurance, and what does it cover? Okay.
Right.
So it can cover for things just like what we have discussed. Okay. All those prior things, even lawsuits that are thrown out of court or won by your company are expensive due to the high cost of securing legal defense. I think we already talked about that. Mm-hmm. Insurance will pay for those defense costs. The myth that this coverage is part of their business insurance is wrong. The truth is 7 out of 10 businesses do not have what we call EPLI coverage, employment practice liability coverage. 6 out of the 10 buyers mistakenly think they are protected under their underlying policies, okay, that they have, like their general liability. 23% of the companies have coverage. 23% companies have coverage 100 employees or fewer. So with 100 employees or fewer, 23% of the companies actually have this coverage. 5 to 700 employees, 34% have this coverage. And 1,000 employees or over is only 40%. Go ahead.
And we've talked, Tom, a lot about this. And again, it's putting those puzzle pieces together. This is more for the business owners that we're talking about on this Saturday. But when you assume that you have the right coverage, everyone assumes I'm covered until something like this would happen. Put the puzzle pieces together to get the puzzle and stop in at Americana Insurance. So, in your opinion, this maybe overlooked coverage in most business insurance.
It's the most overlooked coverage in business insurance industry. Yep. Now, there's also one other type of EPLI coverage, and it's third-party coverage. Truthfully, this is pretty important. When one of your employees does an act against a third party, okay? So, example, let's just say you own a car auto sales place, okay? And one of your car salesmen gets a little fresh in a test drive, okay? Right now, they do not have coverage under their regular policy with that. You would have to have EPLI coverage with third-party coverage, okay? And lots of times EPLI coverage will only cover you as an employer right away, okay? The third party is another endorsement that you have to have on. let's just say your receiving department person gets a little too friendly or says something inappropriate to the FedEx driver. I could go on and on and on. Yeah.
So make sure that you get a hold of not only maybe your insurance company, but give Americana Insurance a chance to have them look at your policy. Make sure you have the coverage that you need, because the last thing that you want is you could lose the entire business because of these costs that continue to rise, and the employees, they're now aware of, everybody's out to sue somebody, so you want to make sure you got those puzzle pieces in place.
Right. If you don't have that coverage, it could bankrupt that small business.
Tom, and of course, they can always get a hold of you.
507-377-2000, or they can go to our website at americanainsurance.com. Email insights@americanainsurance.com. You can ask me questions on there. And then lastly, we have our Facebook. And also, just to have the customer or the listeners know, we have our Halloween jack-o'-lantern contest voting that will close tomorrow night, midnight. So, okay.
We'll look forward to all of those great pumpkins and all the carvings and paintings that were done as well. That'll wrap things up. Show 101. Again, thank you, Mark, for sending in that email question. Very topical employment practice liability insurance on this program 101. So, Tom, as always, have a good weekend.
You too, Mike. Sorry I threw a lot at you there, listeners.
Well, that's all right. They can give you a call and settle things up with Americana Insurance. That's our Insights into Insurance program here on Kate.
You've been listening to Insights into Insurance from the Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is educational in nature and not intended to be acted upon without first consulting the appropriately licensed professional.